So, have you ever found something in someone else's room and just stopped? Like your brain tries to catch up because what you're seeing doesn't fit the picture you had in your head. That's exactly what happened to me just last week. I was looking for the charger for my headphones, typical me, always losing stuff, and somehow I ended up in Emily's room. Now, Emily's my roommate, and she's, well, let's just say slightly intense about her space. You know those people who keep everything organized down to the millimeter? That's her, but honestly, it usually means her room is the last place I'd even want to disturb. But that day, the charger mystery made me accidentally swing open her closet door, and that's when I saw it. Right there, tucked behind some sweaters, was this little box. Nothing unusual about that, except it wasn't just a box, it was a locked box, the kind with a tiny combination lock like you'd expect from a diary or something secretive. And the weird part, I'd never seen it before. Emily and I have shared this apartment for 6 months now, and I'm pretty sure I would have noticed if she had a secret vault in there. I stopped and stared at it for a moment, feeling this weird mix of curiosity and caution. How well do you really know the person you live with? It's a question I never thought much about until then. I mean, we split rent, trade off cleaning the bathroom, and sometimes watch dumb TV shows together, but does that mean you actually know each other? Hell, I didn't even know Emily had something like that hidden in her room. I debated right there on the spot. Should I ask her about it? Confront her straight up and risk making things awkward, or just pretend I never saw it and let it slide? It felt like standing on the edge of this invisible line, and I wasn't sure if crossing it would bring answers or just mess up the easiest part of my life. But the lock on that box kept pulling at me. What could be so private that Emily felt the need to keep it hidden like some sort of mystery? And more importantly, why wouldn't she trust me enough to let me in on it? The whole thing left me with this knot in my stomach, like maybe my quiet roommate was holding on to something big, something she didn't want to share. And just like that locked box changed everything. It made me look at Emily differently and made me realize that living with someone might not be as simple as just sharing space and splitting bills. There's always something beneath the surface, isn't there? Something you might not be ready to face. I'm telling you, that moment finding that box was the start of a pretty strange few days. Because curiosity didn't just knock, it barged in, and suddenly I was stuck wondering if I should open that door or just leave it closed forever. So here's the thing about living with Emily. It's never exactly boring, but it's also not the easiest puzzle to figure out. We met through a mutual friend who swore we'd get along because apparently our Netflix taste overlapped and we both owned way too many plants. Spoiler, the plants outnumbered us by a lot. The apartment itself is one of those quirky old buildings tucked away in the middle of the city, with creaky floors that tell stories you don't always want to hear. But the rent's decent, and it's close enough to work that I can roll out of bed without falling asleep on the commute. Emily's the kind of person who notices the tiniest details, like the exact angle the couch cushions sit at, or if the fridge magnets are slightly crooked. At first, I thought it was adorable, this little obsession with order. She'd walk around with her glasses perched on her nose, tapping her fingers against walls or furniture like she's trying to listen for cracks. One time, she paused mid-sentence because the rhythm of the taps was off. I mean, who does that? Yet somehow, her quirks made the place feel less like a rented space and more like a home. But then, there are those odd habits that I'm still trying to decode. Like how she insists on labeling everything, not just food containers but even the drawers. The sock drawer reads socks, and the junk drawer isn't even metaphoric, it's literally labeled junk. I tried to ask if she was, I don't know, an undercover cataloger or something, but she just gave me this huge grin and said, "The secret to surviving adulthood is knowing where your stuff is before you actually need it." Emily does punctuality in a way that feels like it's part of her DNA. She's never late, not ever, which somehow makes me feel like the stretched-out 5 minutes late version of myself. Then there's Jake, our laid-back best friend who swings by whenever the mood strikes him. Jake is what you'd call chill personified. He strolls in, nods at Emily's obsessive checklist on the fridge, calls it cute and bonkers, then shrugs like, "Mind your own business, man." Honestly, I think his main advice about the roommate weirdness is, don't poke the bear, or in other words, don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. He's convinced Emily is just a mystery wrapped in a sock drawer. I've been trying to see what he means, whether that's good advice or just him avoiding tension, I'm not sure. See, the oddest thing is the feeling I get that something's just off. Not wrong, not bad, but like a puzzle missing a few pieces. Emily's polite when I ask about her day, yet there's this notch of secrecy underneath that smile. She's careful, like she knows too much about keeping things private, even in the little ways. I never see her on social media. She guards her phone like it's a tiny vault much bigger than my locked box, and when I peeked over her shoulder that one time, she quickly hid the screen, like a magician pulling a card back into the deck. It's subtle, but it's there. It's like an unspoken rule that there are topics or parts of her life I'm not allowed in on. And then there's the box. That locked box sitting behind sweaters like a secret anchor in her room, the biggest keep out sign of all. It feels almost symbolic, like Emily carries this entire other world behind that door, one I'm not invited to explore. It's funny because the more I try to ignore it, the harder it sticks in my mind. Like a song you don't want to hum but just can't stop yourself from tapping your fingers to the beat. Sometimes, Emily's just out of sync with the rhythm of our apartment life. Like last week, she disappeared for hours and came back looking like she hadn't slept in days. She was quiet, jittery, like a cat who heard a sound only it could detect. I asked if she was okay, and she just smiled and said, "I'm fine, just lots of stuff to deal with." But the way she said it, there was a weight behind those words, and it felt like a warning. Not to ask, or maybe just not to hold on too tightly. And Jake's casual mind your own business mantra starts to feel more like a challenge than advice. Because I don't want to be the nosy roommate. I actually like how we keep things easy around here, split the bills, swap the occasional awkward joke, and keep our private lives private. But there's this nagging sense that Emily's secret isn't just about that box or late nights. It's about everything we don't say and all the spaces between the words she uses when she talks about her day. So yeah, something feels off, but I haven't put my finger on exactly what it is. Maybe it's that locked box's magnetism pulling at my curiosity, or the way Emily's shadow looks different when she thinks no one's watching. I don't know if it's paranoia or just the natural growing pains of sharing a small space with someone, but if there's one thing I'm certain of, it's that living with Emily has suddenly become way more complicated than just sharing rent and taking out the trash. And here's the kicker, I'm stuck wondering if maybe I should try to figure it out. Or if I should just let it be, because some mysteries, well, they might be best left locked away. One evening, I came home later than usual, had to finish up some last-minute work. The hallway was quiet, except for that faint creak coming from our apartment door. I eased the key into the lock and pushed it open slowly, just enough to peek inside. That's when I caught a glimpse of Emily, crouched by my desk, rifling through my stuff. Or at least, it looked like she was. My instincts instantly flipped from confused to suspicious. Okay, so imagining Emily as some kind of nosy intruder was weird, but it was happening. She froze the second she noticed me in the doorway. Her eyes darted like a squirrel caught mid-snack. "Hey," she said, voice too casual. "I was just looking for a pen." "A pen? On my desk?" "Where I keep pretty much everything important. I wasn't buying it. But what could I say?" "Sure," I muttered, feeling a little awkward about calling her out in front of my own mess. Besides, Emily is usually, well, predictable in her unpredictability. Still, from that night on, I found myself double-checking if my laptop was where I left it, or if some random note had gone missing. It felt weird, like living in a glass house where the glass sometimes disappears. Then came those late-night phone calls. Around midnight, when I would have sworn Emily was asleep, I noticed her sitting alone in the living room, clutching her phone tight. Whenever I asked who it was, she'd glance up, eyes sharp and suddenly secretive, and say, "Just someone from work." But the thing is, Emily works a regular 9 to 5. It was never work-related calls at midnight. She started silencing the phone, swiping the screen away whenever I came close. I tried to shrug it off, telling myself everyone deserves some privacy, but after the earlier pen incident, that excuse felt thin. One night, I decided I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see what was going on. I sat down next to her when she was on one of those secretive calls, phone pressed to her ear, expression strained. "Hey, is everything okay?" I asked gently. She flinched like I'd caught her mid-lie and then let out a long breath. "Look, I'm sorry I've been dodging you," she began, voice low. "There's just stuff I'm dealing with that I don't really want to drag you into." I nodded, but the truth was that answer only dug the hole deeper. "Okay, but can you at least tell me what kind of stuff? Because I feel like I'm being shut out." She took another breath, eyes fixed on some invisible point across the room. "It's complicated. I shouldn't have been snooping through your things either. I guess I'm trying to figure things out for myself and I'm screwing up." A half-truth, sure. It made me think there was a reason she was so protective, something she wasn't ready to share yet. It felt like staring through a foggy window, shapes and shadows but no clear image. The next day, I stumbled upon something that made the whole situation messier. I was in the kitchen grabbing a bottle of water when I noticed a small envelope taped discreetly to the back of our apartment door. My name wasn't on it, but my heart skipped as I peeled it off. Inside was a worn photograph of me, taken from some really odd angle like someone was watching without me knowing. I felt this rush of everything. Confusion, betrayal, concern, all tangled up. Why would Emily keep that? Or was she the one who left it there? The locked box, the secret calls, the stealthy searches through my stuff now, it all seemed tied to something way bigger than either of us had admitted. That night, I sat on the couch, the photograph in my hand, wondering how much of our lives we actually share when we choose to live together. Emily came out of her room at one point, glanced at me nervously, and said, "I didn't want you to find that." I looked up, searching her eyes for answers she wasn't ready to give. Then what am I supposed to think? I asked quietly. She shrugged, the weight of her silence filling the room. That I trust you enough to tell you when I'm ready. And just like that, the lines between trust and secrecy felt even blurrier. Emily and I were roommates, but somehow it felt like we were strangers in the same apartment, each guarding parts of ourselves that even the walls couldn't hear. After that night with the photo taped behind the door, things between Emily and me leaned into this weird, quiet tension. I wasn't sure if we were silently agreeing to pretend everything was fine, or if we were both just too tired to push any harder. But finally, after a couple of days of biting my tongue and throwing side glances her way, Emily sat me down with that serious look she usually reserves for deciding exactly how many ice cubes belong in her glass. So, yeah, she started, fiddling with the hem of her shirt. I guess you deserve to know what's going on. I've been acting like a crypt keeper, and it's not fair. She took a deep breath, which, coming from the Emily who never half committed to anything, told me this was big. That box you found? It's got some old stuff, letters, photos, mementos from my past, before I moved here. She paused, eyes not quite meeting mine. I didn't want you seeing it because, well, some of those memories aren't exactly happy. Her voice softened, and for the first time, I saw behind the quirky, hyper-organized Emily. Behind the obsessive labels and the ritualistic tapping was a person carrying a bunch of invisible weight. The kind you don't wave around like a flag. And the late-night calls? Those weren't from a secret admirer or a shady job, she said with a shy chuckle. It's my little sister. She's been going through some stuff, and I'm sort of her emergency contact. I didn't want to burden you with it. It hit me then that the careful walls she'd built weren't about hiding things from me, but protecting me, and maybe even herself. The searching through my stuff? I asked, still unable to shake that niggling feeling of being both worried and a little invaded. Her shoulders sagged. Guilty. It started because I thought I lost something important, something I thought you had. I was panicking, and instead of asking, I did the dumb thing. The honesty was a relief. Like suddenly, the puzzle wasn't so confusing. Just complicated. We talked for hours after that, late into the night, really talked, the kind where you drop the guard and just sit with imperfections and unspoken worries. I started to understand the weight Emily carried every day. The pressure to keep her own chaos neatly boxed away while still playing the part of the reliable, put-together roommate. Our dynamic shifted after that. The locked box? It's still there, quietly sitting behind sweaters, but now I'm allowed to peek inside sometimes. I even helped Emily sort through some of the letters and photos. It's like the apartment grew a little roomier when walls came down. Jake joked that it was about time the mystery turned into Netflix and chill-level drama. But there's this odd feeling I can't shake, the mix of respect and hesitation when it comes to privacy. Living with someone means dancing around boundaries you might never fully understand, no matter how many bills you split or late-night talks you have. Trust is a fragile vase. You want to treat it gently, but sometimes just breathing too hard can send cracks running. And honestly, I'm still wondering how much you can really know the person you live with. Emily taught me that some secrets aren't about hiding, they're about surviving, and maybe that's enough. So, next time you find yourself staring at a locked box behind a curtain of sweaters, don't rush to pry it open. Sometimes the real story isn't in what's locked away, but in what someone's quietly trying to protect, and maybe, just maybe, in the spaces we leave unlocked for the people we trust.